Picture this. You just took a full week off, 7 glorious days, completely unplugged.
Sounds amazing.
Right. You slept 8 hours a night, you ate well, maybe you even got like a little bit of a tan. And by all conventional biological metrics, you were completely rested.
Oh, for sure. Battery at 100%.
Exactly. But then Monday morning rolls around, you sit down at your desk, you open your laptop, and honestly, within 5 minutes of staring at your inbox, you feel instantly overwhelmingly exhausted.
Yeah, we've all been there.
It's like the vacation never even happened. And you're probably wondering, why does that happen? Well, because you didn't actually recover, you just paused.
Right.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into this fascinating source text we got our hands on. It's this conceptual framework called RM-01, and it pretty much proves that almost everything we think we know about bouncing back from burnout is fundamentally backwards. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's do it. Because the central illusion we operate under, and the text points this out immediately, is that rest and recovery are just synonyms.
We use them interchangeably all the time.
We really do. We treat them like the exact same thing. But this framework, it draws a really hard line between the two. It argues that true recovery isn't just, an empty space in your calendar.
Like blocking off a Friday afternoon to do nothing.
Exactly. It isn't just time secured to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Recovery is actually a structural property. It's the act of returning to a state in which you actually have the ability to choose again.
That distinction is just so critical. And I mean, the best way I could conceptualize it when I was looking through this material is, well, it's like watching a movie. Resting feels like hitting pause on a movie.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Right. You freeze the frame, you go make some popcorn, you come back to the couch, hit play, and the movie just picks up exactly where it left off, unaffected by your absence.
Right. The movie was waiting for you.
But work isn't a movie. When you step away, the project keeps going. The world keeps turning.
And that right there, that's where the friction lives. Because let's look at the actual mechanics of what is happening when you take that break. Rest, fundamentally, is merely a pause in processing.
You just physically and mentally stop doing the work.
Yeah. But recovery, on the other hand, is the regeneration of your capacity to process. And those two things require entirely different conditions.
I mean, I get the theory, but in practice, business has to happen.
Sure, yeah.
If I sleep for a week, my brain biologically regenerates. Doesn't that count as recovery? Are we really saying it's like the organization's fault for not magically pausing the global economy while I'm in Hawaii?
Well, let's test that logic. Say your biological battery is fully recharged, right? And
Okay.
you come back to the office, and you are immediately faced with a mountain of unprocessed decisions that piled up while you were gone.
Oh, the dreaded Monday morning inbox.
Right. And maybe your responsibilities have suddenly become ambiguous because, well, the project shifted while you were out. Or you're expected to recover all the delays entirely on your own.
Just working late every day that first week back.
Exactly. So your battery might be full at 9:00 a.m., but the environment demands this immediate, impossible catch-up. Your capacity to process is instantly drained because the structure you return to is, frankly, hostile to recovery.
Which brings up a painfully relatable scenario that the text touches on, the whole illusion of coverage.
Oh, yeah.
We've all had that so-called coverage, right? Where a coworker just sort of monitors your inbox and then forwards you 50 emails on Monday morning labeled, needs your eyes now that you're back.
Oh, that's the worst.
That's not coverage. That's just deferred punishment.
That is a perfect example of empty time. You had the time off, you stopped processing, but you didn't regenerate your ability to process because the burden of return was left entirely on your shoulders.
You're paying a massive penalty just for having stepped away.
Exactly.
Wait, but isn't the real problem here just that we don't have enough time to rest? I mean, everything is moving so fast right now. We live in this era of hyper-acceleration. It feels like the speed itself is the root cause.
Well, acceleration is absolutely a factor. But its most insidious effect isn't just that it, eats up your free time.
What does it do then?
Acceleration actively erodes the paths of reconnection.
The paths of reconnection.
Yeah, because when things are moving incredibly fast, stepping away means the context changes rapidly without you. You incur what this framework calls translation costs.
Translation costs. I actually love that term. It's like walking into season 4 of a complex TV show when you only watch season 1.
That is exactly what it's like.
You aren't just casually watching the show anymore. You're expending massive amounts of mental calories trying to figure out why these two characters suddenly hate each other or, like, who this new villain is.
Yeah.
That mental calorie burn, that's the translation cost.
Yeah, and apply that to a modern workplace. You leave on a Friday, and by Monday, informal agreements have been made outside of official meetings.
Oh, the hallway chats.
Right. Maybe 2 executives had a quick hallway chat or a 10-minute Slack huddle, and suddenly the entire goal of the project pivoted.
And nobody wrote it down.
Right. Or think about the tools we use. You take a month of parental leave, and suddenly the software everyone uses to do their jobs has completely updated its interface.
Oh, or the absolute worst one. Decision histories known by only one person.
Yes.
If you're trying to pick up a project and you can't figure out why a crucial choice was made while you were gone, you're just paralyzed. You literally have to play detective just to understand how to do your job.
Which means you aren't just doing the work. You are translating the gap between the past and the present.
Right.
And all of these factors increase that translation cost. They turn the gap between resting you and working you into this unbridgeable canyon.
Wow.
So what's fascinating here is that the deeper systemic problem isn't there is no time to rest. The problem is there is no viable path back after resting.
And because that path back is so treacherous, people actually start avoiding rest altogether.
Oh, absolutely.
We've all seen it. People refuse to take their PTO because they know the penalty of returning is just too high. The friction of catching up is somehow worse than the exhaustion of just pushing through.
And this connects so deeply to how we internalize burnout. When those translation costs are insurmountable, when we just can't get back up to speed after a long weekend, the default human reaction is self-blame.
We sit at our desks thinking, I have terrible time management, or I just lack the willpower to grind through this.
Exactly. But this material introduces an equation that completely shifts that blame.
Oh, the formula. Yeah, it blew my mind when I first read it. Let's break this down for you all. The equation states, loss of recovery capacity equals fatigue, plus loss of history, plus fixed pathways, plus the burden of return.
And notice what happens when you isolate those variables. We always treat a lack of recovery like it's a personal failing, right?
Yeah.
Like a lack of stamina.
Yeah, like you're just not tough enough.
But look at the math. Fatigue is personal, certainly. That's your biological battery. But loss of history, fixed pathways, the burden of return.
Those aren't on you.
No, those are systemic failures.
So how does an organization actually fix those systemic failures? I mean, what does a structural recovery margin look like in the real world?
Well, it requires specific intentional conditions from the organization. First, are work histories preserved in a way that anyone can access them?
Okay.
Second, and this one is crucial, are the reasons behind decisions recorded? Not just the final verdict, but the rationale. Because if someone can read why a pivot happened, their translation cost drops dramatically.
Oh, for sure. It also means real transferability of responsibility, right? Returning to that fake coverage example, if the work just sits on your desk rotting while you're away, there is no structural recovery.
None at all. Furthermore, when someone comes back, can they resume just a fraction of the work to ease back in?
Like a ramp-up period.
Yes. Is context actively provided to them, or are they left to fend for themselves? If these structural elements are missing, the system itself lacks a recovery margin.
So it doesn't matter if a company offers like unlimited vacation days.
Not at all.
If the structure is rigid, recovery is mathematically impossible.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's assume you do have a great team. The structure is there. They kept immaculate notes. They truly covered your work. The path back is paved and clear. There is a brilliant question raised in the source here. Where exactly are you returning to?
Ah, yeah. And that introduces the trap of returning to normal. It's a phrase we hear constantly after a disruption or a long burnout period. I just want things to get back to normal.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because normal might mean returning to the exact conditions that caused the friction, the exhaustion, and the wear and tear in the very first place.
Right.
You're using this beautifully paved recovery path to just walk right back into a burning building.
Yeah, reproducing the previous state isn't recovery. If the previous state broke you, returning to it guarantees you will break again.
So what's the alternative?
True recovery requires rearrangement possibility.
Rearrangement possibility, meaning you don't just come back to the machine, you come back with the authority to change how the machine operates.
Exactly. Think about what that freedom looks like in practice. It means having the structural permission to lessen your load without being penalized.
Okay.
It might mean changing roles entirely or altering your connection frequency, realizing, hey, I don't actually need to be in that daily 9:00 a.m. stand-up meeting that drains my energy before the day even begins.
Oh, that sounds amazing. It could also mean like shrinking your decision units, right?
Yes, definitely.
Instead of being responsible for the success of an entire sprawling campaign, you negotiate to handle a localized, manageable piece of it, or even just retaining the option to reserve parts of the work for later.
Ultimately, it comes down to having alternative paths. If Plan A is what caused the burnout, recovery means having a Plan B or Plan C available and validated when you return.
I see.
Recovery margin is fundamentally about degrees of freedom. It is the structural permission to rearrange how you engage with the system.
That reframes the entire goal of a career. I mean, the goal isn't just endurance, it's adaptability. But, whenever we talk about heavy workloads, high translation costs, and complex systems today, there is a massive elephant in the room:
I think I know where you're going with this.
artificial intelligence.
Yep. There it is.
Everyone is pitching AI as the ultimate solution to burnout. The promise is always, let the AI do the heavy lifting so you can finally rest. But based on this text, does AI genuinely support this recovery margin, or is it just making the treadmill spin faster?
The dynamic with AI is remarkably nuanced because it can act as a savior or a total nightmare depending entirely on its implementation.
Okay, break that down for us.
We can look at this through two distinct paths outlined in the framework. Path A is AI functioning as a translation layer, and Path B is AI functioning as an accelerator.
All right, let's start with Path A, the translation layer. This sounds like the ideal scenario.
In this path, AI actively reduces the distance of reconnection.
Yeah.
Remember those high translation costs we talked about? The inbox mountain, the missing context?
Yeah, the stuff that makes coming back a nightmare.
Here, AI steps in to bridge that canyon. It can summarize the history of a Slack channel while you were away. It can organize the rationales behind decisions, pulling from meeting transcripts.
Oh, that's incredibly helpful.
It identifies exactly where you left off so you can pick up the thread without burning mental calories.
So it supports seamless handovers. It compresses excessive, overwhelming choices into a few manageable summaries.
Exactly. Under Path A, the technology functions to help the absent person return to context safely. It builds the path back.
But then there's Path B AI as the accelerator. And reading through this, this sounds like a dystopia disguised as a productivity hack.
Yeah, it really can be, because in Path B, AI actively increases the distance of return. Since the technology operates at lightning speed, it exponentially increases the sheer volume of tasks being generated.
Just flooding the zone with more work.
Right, and worse, it raises the baseline expectations for immediate responses across the entire company. If a language model can draft a comprehensive strategy email in 2 seconds, the unstated expectation becomes, well, why haven't you replied yet?
So the frequency of updates just accelerates. The system continues processing, generating ideas, creating documents, and pivoting strategies at blinding speed while you are physically absent.
And here is the critical flaw that destroys the recovery margin in Path B. Despite the AI doing all this rapid, endless processing, the final responsibility, the legal and professional accountability is almost always left with the human being.
That is genuinely terrifying. You step away for a long weekend, the AI generates a month's worth of output, and you return on Tuesday morning to find you are personally accountable for reviewing, approving, and owning an avalanche of automated decisions you have zero context for.
This raises an important question, right? Your recovery margin becomes negative. You have fallen further behind, and the translation costs are higher than they would have been in a pre-AI world. This forces us to ask a diagnostic question about any technology we introduce into our workflows. The issue isn't about the AI's capability. We know it is capable. The issue is its objective function within your specific organization.
Meaning, what is the tool actually hired to do? Like, is the AI designed to reduce processing time, pushing everyone to produce more output at a faster rate? Or is it designed to reduce the distance required to reconnect, allowing human beings to step away and return safely?
Yes. If the objective function is speed, it destroys recovery. If the objective function is translation, it enables it.
That is a phenomenal lens to view our tech stack through. But let's bring this down from the corporate organizational level for a minute, because we don't just experience burnout at work. And this framework points out that recovery margins aren't just for massive corporate structures or for when we take 3-week vacations.
No, not at all. True recovery has to exist in the microscopic interactions of our personal lives, too. The framework introduces a concept called the life membrane.
The life membrane.
Yeah, it suggests that recovery margins are found in tiny, everyday structural choices.
I really love this concept of micro margins. It gives such practical, tangible examples. Things like um, simply not having to confirm a reply immediately, leaving a message on read for a few hours without it escalating into a social crisis.
Exactly. Or the architecture of digital shopping, holding a purchase decision until the next day. The ability to leave an item in a digital cart and sleep on it, rather than being forced by a high-pressure countdown timer to buy it right this second.
Being able to reevaluate something you previously refused without losing face. Or something as simple as, resuming from a saved draft rather than having to start over from scratch because an app refreshed.
Think about canceling a digital service. If you cancel a subscription, do you lose all your data, all your playlists, all your history forever? Or is there a margin left where the company retains your records so you can retrieve your history if you change your mind a year later?
When you string all these micro margins together, a really clear theme emerges. Delaying a text reply, saving a draft, sleeping on a purchase, none of these things directly boost your efficiency.
No.
In fact, a productivity guru might look at them and call them friction, but what they actually do is prevent irreversible decisions.
They leave paths unclosed. They maintain the fluidity of your daily life. They ensure that your life membrane remains flexible and permeable rather than brittle.
Right.
If every decision you make, big or small, is instant and completely irreversible, you are navigating life with zero margin for error. And zero margin for error means zero margin for recovery.
We've covered a massive landscape today. I mean, we started by dismantling the illusion of the pause, how biological rest isn't the same as structural recovery. We examined how modern acceleration destroys the path back, raising those translation costs. We broke down the equation showing how recovery is a systemic failure, not just a personal lack of willpower.
A lot of ground covered for sure.
Yeah. We learned to avoid the trap of returning to the normal that broke us. We weighed the dual nature of AI, and we just looked at these crucial micro margins in our daily lives. And all of this relies on having a path to return, having structural support, having the fluidity to change our minds. But synthesizing all of this brings up one final, somewhat radical question. What if the best choice is not returning at all?
Ah, that is the ultimate condition for a true recovery margin. If recovery support only follows one single, rigid path departure, followed by rest, followed by a forced return to the identical state, it ceases to be a recovery.
What does it become?
It morphs into a phenomenon known as return pressure.
Return pressure. It feels like you're being funneled back into the machine. You are allowed to step off the conveyor belt for a moment, but you must step back onto the exact same spot at the exact same speed.
Yes, true recovery margin requires a duality. It requires the possibility of reconnection, yes. But it equally requires the possibility of remaining outside. An individual must have the freedom not to return without facing an excessive punitive loss.
Without losing all their accumulated records or their built-up professional trust or, literally losing their ability to pay rent. If you can only survive by going back to the exact environment that broke you, you aren't recovering. You're just holding your breath, waiting for the next inevitable breaking point.
The freedom to walk away, fully intact, is the ultimate structural margin. If you don't have the power to say no to returning, your recovery was never really yours to begin with.
So what does this all mean for you listening? We usually define resilience in our culture as this tough, gritty ability to bounce back, to take a massive hit, shake it off, and snap back to being exactly who and where we were before the disruption. But based on everything we've unpacked today in RM-01, I want to leave you with a different way of looking at it. What if true resilience isn't about bouncing back to the same spot? What if true resilience is actually having the courage and, crucially, the structural support to bounce somewhere entirely new? Take a look at your own life, your workplace, your daily habits, and ask yourself, do your systems force you to just bounce back, or do they give you the margin to choose again?